Hello, this is Amber from Morgan James Publishing, and today I have the privilege of connecting with Victoria Lucido, the author of Classroom Confidential. Vicki, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Amber. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm so glad. So I want to dive in and ask you a couple of questions about your new book. What compelled you to write this book?
Let me just show a little picture quickly of my book. So this is what it looks like. And to answer your question of what compels me, I really need to go back to when I first started teaching. In 1985, which is a long time ago, when I first started teaching, I struggled as a new teacher because teachers were very busy, and even though they were willing to help, they didn't really have the time to always help. Also, some of the things I was too embarrassed to ask other teachers. For example, I put up my classroom and I only had a few posters and very little things to decorate my classroom when I first started. And I would walk down the halls and I would see other teachers that had these fabulous classrooms. And I was too embarrassed to ask them, what do you think of my classroom? Or can you help me set up my classroom? Because I felt like I should already know that. So there was things I felt uncomfortable asking. There was things I would ask and I would get quick answers when maybe I needed more information. So now through the years, because of how I felt as a new teacher, I tried to be really open to any teacher who came on our campus, whether they're brand new teachers or just transferring from another school and didn't know the ropes of our school. I'd always introduce myself, and I was part of our social. It was called Hearts and Flowers. So I always wanted to welcome everybody and make them feel they belonged and that there was an open door in my classroom. And several times I even helped new teachers decorate their classrooms because, again, they didn't have stuff. I'd open my doors because by then I had tons of stuff, and I'd take stuff and open, help yourself. So now, through the years, as I said, I always tried to welcome new teachers, help new teachers. And then when I decided to retire in 2018, I thought, wow, I learned all this stuff in 33 years, and I really enjoyed helping teachers. And I would like to start writing down what I learned through all these experiences. So I started jotting down topics that either I struggled with or new teachers would come to me worried about, like budget cuts, or like when they're going to now we're all going to do this and it's going to fix everything.
Yeah.
So I started writing down all those things, and even small things like fitting in the staff lounge. Nobody talks about that, but teachers are social animals often, and they want to feel they belong. So things like that I felt weren't in other books, or even that maybe were in other books that were important. So I jotted them down the last quarter or so, and then I had about 50 topics. And then after I cleaned out my classroom, had my retirement party, I started writing my book. And I don't have 50 chapters because many of the topics fit together, like any of the parent conferences and parent back to school night, these so they fit together in ways. But it was so cathartic to write the book. I really enjoyed it, and it just flowed out of me. A friend asked me, she said, we'd go on these walks, and she said, aren't you having writer's block? I said, I'm really not. I think it's just coming through me. And so anyway, that's why I was really compelled to write the book, because I wanted to keep helping new teachers. I wanted to share what I learned. And it's just been a pleasure to write the book. And I've been really excited having people read it and comment about how they could really relate to what I said and that it helped them. It was kind of therapeutic. So anyway, that's kind of answer my question, is that it started all the way at the beginning. I basically wrote the book I wish I had when I started teaching.
Yeah, that is so valuable. And I know no matter what new space you're in, but I imagine especially in a new school environment, there are probably billions of questions that you have. So to have kind of a friend in a book form that can help you through some of those seasons is so helpful. That's beautiful. So who benefits from the lessons in your book?
Well, naturally teachers, and teachers of all experience. It's not just for new teachers. I had a teacher friend who had been teaching 10 years be one of my people who read the book. I had a new teacher. I had several different, as far as experience goes. And everybody who read it said they got something out of it.
Awesome.
Because sometimes when you're new, when you're a teacher that's been teaching for a while, you don't often see other people teaching. You're in your classroom and you know it works for you or doesn't work for you. But some of the teachers, when they read it, they said, I'm going to use that, or, oh, that's a good idea, or I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So all teachers really of any experience level, administrators, because administrators sometimes, I believe, forget what it's like to be in the classroom.
Sure.
Sometimes maybe they haven't been in the classroom ever, or they weren't in the classroom very long. And the goal, I would think, is to retain good teachers.
Yeah.
And if the administrators read my book, it can help them to remember what it's like to be in the classroom. I know administrators have their own pressures with the district office or with the state, handing it down to teachers, but I think it's good for administrators to read it and remember what it's like to be in the classroom. Parents, with this online learning going on right now, parents are having to often school their own children, and maybe they have just their own family, whatever number of kids that is. And it's good for parents to read it for having boundaries around teaching their own kids right now. But also when their kids go back to the classroom, if they're not, some I know are, but if they're not, to remember what it's like to be in the teacher's shoes. Because a teacher has anywhere from maybe 30 contacts for elementary all the way to maybe 200 contacts for a high school teacher. There were years I had 200 contacts with middle school. And I think it's a good book for parents to read, to think about what it's like to be in the classroom.
Yeah.
And we're just doing the best we can. Are we perfect? No, but most teachers I've worked with really care and are really trying to do a good job.
Yeah.
But besides the education setting, which of course is what I was part of, and I say anybody in education, because I talked about custodians and school secretaries or school office supervisors, district office, but also anybody working and managing people, whether it's a small business, a large business. A lot of my book talks about best practices for managing people and a lot about boundaries around working with other people. So many people on my Amazon reviews stated that they weren't necessarily teachers, but that they were good, no-nonsense advice for working with people, managing people in any capacity.
Yeah, that's huge. People are people, and some of those lessons, like you said, like boundaries and communication, are huge and apply everywhere. So that's,
and building trust and community, no matter where you work. I think that's just so important.
Yeah, when you mentioned the teacher's lounge environment earlier, that image of being able to connect with your coworkers in that space is so crucial to being able to get your job done well. So that makes a lot of sense.
And some people are embarrassed to admit they feel uncomfortable because it's like you're a little kid.
Sure.
And yet most people like to stay in their classroom, and that's fine and everything. But a lot of people want to feel like they belong to the school and building that community. Right. And that, to me, creates loyalty to the school and creates people wanting to stay at the school when they feel they have this tribe of people that they feel supported by and connect with. To me, I was at the last school for 27 years. The first school I was at for 6 years, and then it was going to close, I talk about in my book. So I went to Colton, I stayed 27 years, and it was my home away from home. And so building community at that school, really important to me.
Yeah. Great. A couple more questions before we wrap up today. So how is your book different from other books on education?
Well, you can imagine, Amber, by the time I retired, after 33 years in the classroom, I had a lot of books on education. I had a bookshelf full of them. I had a cabinet full of them. Some I got at conferences, some were given to me, some were author signings, some I bought, and I can honestly say that I never read even one of them from cover to cover because I didn't have time.
Yeah.
They were full of statistics, which great. Statistics are awesome, but I need something I could use in my classroom today.
Right.
Sometimes they're written by people who were not in the classroom anymore, or by a PhD, which I never taught college, but well, actually, I did teach one college class, but teaching college is different than teaching middle school. So
Yeah.
anyway, the whole point is that I wanted to design a book that was user-friendly, teacher-friendly. Morgan James helped me. We talked about how big it should be, how thick it should be, that it's something teachers would be able to carry around easily. If you were to sit down and read my book cover to cover, it says the reading time is estimated 120 minutes. If you don't have 120 minutes, you can just go to a chapter, like let's say you're having a sub that day. You're like, what did she say about having a sub? And I have all these tips about having a successful sub experience. Maybe again, you're dealing with a new administrator, okay? And I talk about how to train your administrator. When you get that new administrator, which I got plenty of them, how do you let them know who you are and
Right.
get the ball rolling with that new person to have the most success? Maybe budget cuts. Anyway, basically, my book is different in my opinion because it's like having a conversation with a tenured teacher, a safe conversation with a tenured teacher where you can talk, tell the truth. I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of statistics. I'm going to give you a quick story to tell you how I learned what I learned. And then I'm going to get down to business and say, these are some tips that I learned that'll make life go more smoothly for you. So that's how I feel my book is different
Yeah.
because, again, other books, while they may have had great information, I'm not trying to bash other books at all.
Sure.
I'm just saying I didn't have time to try to figure out what they're trying to tell me. Whereas
Yeah.
my book is very straightforward, down and dirty, no nonsense. These are some things you can use in your classroom that worked for me and could work for you.
Yeah. That's excellent and very helpful. So, where can viewers at home connect with you?
I have a website, victorialucidobooks.com. It has a lot of my background information on there, and it talks about who I am as a teacher. It has my contact information. It has a few news articles. Anyway, things they can learn about me or just to get my contact information.
Yeah.
Also, I'm on Instagram with Victoria Lucido Books. I'm on Facebook, Victoria Lucido Books. So I would love for people to contact me, connect with me. I love having conversations with teachers or with anybody about my book and what I'm saying. I'm really looking forward to when the world hopefully gets back to a safer place where I can go and speak at conferences. But right now, the best place to reach me is through social media, as I said, or on my website at victorialucidobooks.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Vicki, and thank you, viewers at home, for connecting with us today. Be sure to grab a copy of Classroom Confidential wherever books are sold. And Vicki, congratulations on the release of your book.
Thank you, Amber.